So I've often said the only thing better than winning games, victory is sweet, winning games, war games, in this case Battletech, is the theory, talking about it, speculating, building your mechs, crunching the numbers, debating back and forth. It's a massive part of the community. So I want to push a little bit of speculation out there. And from that historical perspective of the miniatures, of the models, I mean, you could play Battletech with the cardboard cutouts. And for a lot of years, many of us did. I had the front back cutout of the City Tech and the Battletech, and you put them on the stands, and then you put the little house marking symbols within the stand, and you lose them, and you forget because you didn't put one in the back. And very, very interesting playing with that. You could play Battletech with just some markers on there. But being a miniatures game, in my opinion, we want to have the minis, we want to have the hex maps, we want to do the wargaming table, we want to have the music, we want to have the narrative, we want to have the posters. We're trying to create something on there. We're trying to create this narrative. So the miniatures are very, very important. And I have to wonder, as of this podcast, to be posting it, the Kickstarter for the Clan Invasion box from Catalyst is underway. But what's interesting is more and more, essentially, I would say the primary Battletech range of mechs, both Inner Sphere and Clans, is coming to plastic. It's essentially Battletech 2.0. And now you have all these mechs updated, redesigned, scaled, brought up to kind of Battletech video games, MechWarrior Online, that type of stuff, specifications versus some of the older kits and older presentations on there. So what is this going to do? This is the speculation, and then I'm going to turn it over to the comments. What is this going to do for self-printing, 3D printing, or the China Forge, or the Pirate Bay type stuff, where players were turning to these alternate sculpts because they thought the older sculpts were really not that good? I'm going to pause and use an idea of Warhammer 40,000 as an analysis, because the game has gone through a similar development cycle maybe about 10 or 15 years ago to where Battletech is right now on there. And it's interesting how those things changed. So if you're a 40K enthusiast, we're going to look at it from that perspective. If not, well, Games Workshop makes sci-fi miniatures, Warhammer 40,000, and a wide scope of miniatures on there, dating from the late 80s, the early 90s, up until today. And what we saw, a lot of these miniatures, when I was playing Warhammer 40K, 2007, 2008, the miniatures have always been expensive, but there's certain kits at the time, Forge World, which was specialized units, and Titans, these very, very large kind of, well, battle mechs on there, I mean, essentially battle mechs, they were $500-$600 a kit, you know, for a Titan or something. And I remember going to an event, a 40K event, where this guy had all these Titans, and the terrain that he made for the table, it was Titan pieces that he kit bashed and blew up. And I'm like, wow, blown up Titan pieces, like, what's going on? And essentially he was like, these are all reforged, recast stuff. He was essentially recasting these kits on there. And it was very, very, very hard to tell the difference. And then as Games Workshop upped their prices more and more and more, you know, when a Land Raider was like $50, now you're like, oh, $150 for a Land Raider. That makes sense. A Land Raider's like one tank, a giant tank. You started to see, this was maybe what, 2012, 2013, what I would call China Forge, where I could go and buy the Games Workshop models, or I could buy the Forge World stuff, or I could go online and wait a week longer to get it for shipping, and essentially get recasts from China that looked amazing. I mean, really one-to-one. And we saw this when Games Workshop switched from plastic. I believe this is what killed Finecast. They switched from the plastics to Finecast, which was going to be like their really detailed resin, and they upped the prices on it. Now, Games Workshop from there, so China Forge was big for a long time, and I know a number of players, so I won't name any names. They built entire armies that would have been very expensive, very elite, very specialized, off of China forged and recast parts, and you could not tell the difference. And their army might have cost them $300 versus thousands. I mean, Games Workshop prices are absolutely insane on there, and even someone as desensitized and conditioned as I am for paying those prices, even once in a while I have to pause and be like, wait, what? Side note, I remember we went down to Games Day. We went down to a Games Day, Games Workshop Games Day with the club, and there was literally, we rented a minivan, and I don't know, there was like 10 of us in this minivan. I mean, everyone was packed in, and we stopped at a rest stop. You know, we go in, we get some food, and as we're going in, I realized, like, it was a nice area where we were. There was nothing wrong with the area, but I realized, and my buddy Jowl Balls realized, somebody's got to sit in that car. I'm not so worried about it getting stolen. I'm worried about someone coming off the ramp and smashing into the car, even though we're parked perfectly, or something crazy. Retail, I don't know, there's what, $60,000, $70,000 worth of miniatures in there? I mean, something, okay, maybe not that much. 20,000, 30,000? Like, there's like 15 armies. There's like 15, 8, 9, 10,000 point armies in there. Forget about the time and the paint and the conversion. Like, that's crazy. So you saw people pushing. We saw people pushing and going to the China Forge. But now Games Workshop is at a point, and then we're going to translate this over to Battletech, the tech to print the models. I'm making my way through Blackstone Fortress right now, and these models are no glue, push fit, but the details and the sculpting, and it's amazing. The model kits are amazing with what Games Workshop is doing. I haven't seen recently good casts or good reforges on it. They've stepped up their game such to the point where you want to go original models. So now we switch back over to Battletech. You've got the metal models, you've got the classic models, and I've noticed for some time, following the Battletech on Reddit and some other YouTube channels and kind of networking with other Battletech players, 20%, 30%, 40% of Battletech players that are relatively new to the game, they are 3D printing their own MechWarrior Online models. They are utilizing them. They are buying third-party Battletech models on there. And one could say, I mean, I'm slightly biased, making and surviving through the 80s and playing Battletech in the 80s. So those metal mechs and how they look, that's just how Battletech looks to me on there. So I've never felt a need to jump into the plastics or that end of it. But new players were like, hey, I played the video game, I played it online, I want to play it on the tabletop. So you had this massive industry, based on scale of players that were doing that. Now we're in the Kickstarter. Here's the speculation. And just seeing what Catalyst has released with the renders of the plastic models for the Inner Sphere and the clans, I'm like, this is amazing. This is Battletech 2.0. This is going to change the game visually on there. And just when I thought my collection was good and I was in a good place, now I've got to dive into the plastics, and I'm hungry for it. They look amazing. And of course, that level of detail as of right now is going to be better than anything a 3D printer can do. So are we going to see that shift back? I mean, has Catalyst recaptured the market? And I also have to speculate on there. As for now, I mean, we're getting, I think it's like potentially 80 mechs or so. All of the major Inner Sphere mechs, all of the popular mechs on there, all the popular clan mechs on there, redesigned eventually in plastic, either in the Invasion box set or later the Lance packs and the Star packs. So why should I buy Ironwind? Why should I buy anything metal anymore? I'm just going to go right to the plastics. Where that dividing line is, though, I mean, I'm just asking the question on there. Where that dividing line is, Inner Sphere, Total Warfare, Combined Arms, I don't see tanks yet in plastic. I don't see some of the clan, I mean, they have tanks, but the different type of elemental battle armors and the battle armor variants on there, the salamanders, the sliffs, things like that, We don't see those yet. So there's still this kind of combined arms total warfare aspect of Battletech, that there are no dedicated plastics versus metals. And I don't know if enough of us play that to warrant it, but I want to say that 80% of the Battletech universe is now shifting over to these 2.0 miniatures, and everything's in plastic. And if Catalyst can keep it in production, that's a big what if, then this is going to be the new direction. And would I go with any other type of miniature on there? So I see this Kickstarter as starting a new era, and literally flipping the game table over, and kind of reassessing the Battletech universe on there. And certainly from the perspective, if someone was new jumping into Battletech, this is, as a war game, this is now on par visually, and the art, the maps and the books and everything with every other war game that's out there. And that's only going to propel Battletech. It's a great thing. It's only going to propel Battletech further and faster, and really push it out there beyond the community, beyond those of us who are like diehard Battletech players. It's a good time to be into Battletech. Your thoughts on that speculation on there? I'm curious in the comments. The Battletech, I don't know what, alt market, third-party market, printed market on there for these mechs. How big is it? And with the release of essentially almost everything in plastic, updated, is that going to cut into it?